Good morning. Just pulled into work. Interesting topic on my mind. It's about disconnection and responsibility and leadership. And as a man, you know, it's kind of our responsibility more often than not to make a decision, make a call, or to lead. And I don't care if people find offense to that or whatever. It's just how natural law works with biology. And, men are natural leaders. That's why the head of household to this day is usually the man. And there's a lot of people that don't want to lead. And there's a lot of frustration these days. And I witnessed that firsthand in my profession, where it's like, oh, let me get my supervisor, and then they get their supervisor, and they get their supervisor's supervisor, and then it goes up and up and up, and you have all these people in between that don't want to take responsibility. And it's like that with our government. It's all bureaucratic bloat. There's so much useless waste in it. Just like this, a corporation that gets huge. There's so much uselessness in it that it's just incredible to think about. It's frustrating for someone that had started with a simple question or a simple request. Like, I used to run deliveries. I used to work and arrange the logistics and everything of that, set up times and track things. And that stuff, that was a tough job because I would often have to go through all these hurdles and talk to this person and that person and that person. And it would take me about an hour to 2 hours sometimes. There's this one order that took me 3 weeks to get a response to for this person. And ma'am, if you somehow ever see this video, I really do apologize, but this is what I mean. Because there are so many people, oh, let me get back with you, I need to talk to my supervisor, because they don't want to take responsibility. And that's a problem. And we have this idea that in the past, we look at it through a lens of like we're watching a Disney movie where it's like, oh, it's kings and little princes and all this stuff, and there's an evil tyrant lord that was rebelled against by the heroic resistance inside the forest, and they're robbing from the rich and giving to the poor. It's very, very naive, childish, liberal mindset where it's like, oh, freedom, but then there's no idea of what freedom is. There's just a common, what do I call it? What would be the right word? A misconception, an unbelief, a meme in a way. It's a meme. It's very mimetic because here's this new thing, and now everything before you forgot about, and then you need to get on board, or you're on the other side, you're bad. And there's this whole resistance, anyway, back to that. There's kings and lords. They were in those positions and because they were the best to have them. And of course there are examples in history of very bad ones. Usually it's through inheritance or cruelty that those were obtained by the bad ones. But to be a king, just think about it from just a job perspective, is an incredible task. It is so draining. It requires your full attention. You are utterly responsible for everybody underneath your rule. You are responsible for their protection, for their pay, for their care, for maintaining order, maintaining infrastructure. Like, It is your duty. It is your job. And that is a very big responsibility. There is no, let me go to my supervisor for a king. There is no, let me go to my supervisor for a lord or a prince, unless they were to potentially do an action that affects the entire realm. And a lot of time these days, that is how everything is set up, is where we have so much filler that there is no responsibility because there's too many kings and not enough subjects, right? Because everyone's like, that's not my responsibility, that's not my job, that's not my job, that's someone, that's so and so, that's this department or that department, contact HR or customer resources. It's like that with people. And during the Industrial Revolution in particular, that's where all of this garbage started. Like a lot of good came from it. We got amazing technology. Our standards of living have never been higher, because of that. But during that time, the more disconnected you were. Like, you led from the front before. Like when the king waged war, they led their army. They took the consequences on their backs, and they led from the front. Now we have some clueless politician behind a nice fancy desk or in one of their many mansions, so disconnected that they don't have problems starting a war. A company has no problems firing a person without investigating the actual issue or the reports. The police, they're so spread thin, but there's a lot of filler that could be cut out to where they could effectively do their jobs better. Like, police aren't bad people. They don't really have time in a lot of instances that involve like self-defense or like that, if it's violent. And they get painted as tyrants and everything but from the outside, you don't know. When they do an internal investigation, it takes a long time because, one, they want to do it right, and two, there's a lot of filler. Same with every other thing. It's literally so toxic. It has infected every facet of society, every single step. It's if you want to lead, you're deemed as toxic or toxic or masculine if you're a guy. You're oppressive if you're wearing a uniform, or you're a fascist if you're in government. There's a lot of labels that get thrown around because we're taught to think that we are the rebellious heroes. We are the Robin Hoods. We are the people in the woods. But what do we do every day? A lot of us push responsibility off on other people. A lot of us neglect to do our daily checklist. A lot of us don't even cook anymore for ourselves. A lot of us don't want to fix our own cars or to fix our own, like washing machines or unclog our own toilets. That's a very, 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 very disconnected person. A lot of us are disconnected because we push our responsibilities off on other people. We no longer have to lead our lives from the front. And a lot of us will never get anywhere because of that. And then there's frustration because we don't know how. And yes, there's a lot of that blame that can be placed on a previous generation, the ones that came before us, that made it this way. But it is not their responsibility to fix it because we are the ones that are living here and now. It sounds kind of like a rant, but there's a lot of responsibilities that are nobody else's responsibility other than yours. If you see a problem, it is your responsibility to speak out about it, point it out, or fix it. Do something instead of gripe and complain about it. Because if you gripe and complain about it, you're just another one of those people on the side that are disconnected, that have absolutely no business even talking. And that put up or shut up, you know what I mean? That is a very, very, very real phrase to use. Like that, there's a lot of actual real world merit in that. If you see something, say something, right? If you find a problem, you fix it. If you have a problem in your home, or you have an imbalance, it is not your job's responsibility to give you more time off. It is your responsibility to put that line in the sand. It is your responsibility to go, I'm not going to be here this day, and there's nothing you can do about it. It is your responsibility to make time for yourself. You know, and I'm not saying kick in your boss's door and go, here's the law. I'm saying, I've worked this much this week. I've worked this much last week. I've had no time off in this amount of days. I'm not available these 2 days for these reasons here. List them, and then don't give them a choice to say no, but don't be aggressive. You know, lead your life, lead your time. Because if you're a good worker, a good employee, and you have a decent boss, they're gonna work with you. They will, because a good boss does not want a good employee to go. A lot of criticism comes with a position, and being a manager of like let's say where I work, it's not me, by the way. I manage my own department, so I'm responsible for anything that happens to it. But it is a lot of work, because you take the blame and the ire of every customer, every employee. It's a lot to shoulder. And I just want people to think about how they're leading their own lives before they gripe about how bad someone else is doing. You see? You understand? Because there's just no responsibility anymore for young men. And then you get a rise in directionless, useless, jobless, full of potential, but young men just do nothing. And the worst people are the ones that find them, you know, the bad ones, the parasites, the gangs, the garbage industries. They find those men, those boys, and they give them stuff that they're, you know, something that they are missing. They think they're missing, and then they're on the wrong path, and then that's the only one they end up knowing, so they have no way out. A lot of roads are circular. They loop back around over and over and over again. It's not the designer's job to find that exit. It's your job to find the exit. Find what you want in life. Contemplate how you're going to get there. If you don't have time to think, you need to make time. You need to get out. You need to go outside. You need to give yourself a break. You need to be there for yourself. Show up for yourself every day. Whether that be do your chores, whether that be make sure your house is clean, whether that be do an exercise, whether that be finances, whether that be a goal that you've been putting off for months or years. Show up for yourself. Start there. Fix yourself. Be responsible. And then the world will broaden itself out to you. When it'll open, things will be more clear. You'll be able to understand more because you've got your own ducks in a row. You understand what it's like to be responsible, and you'll be able to help others. Now, I'm gonna let you go because I have to go work. But I really hope that young men in particular, or young people, find this, people my age or younger, And I hope that this helps them when I say, don't be so angsty and rebellious. Learn to be responsible first. Because then you can at least have an understanding of what it's like to take that one step by yourself. Because you need to learn to do that before you scrap with others, before you take on the world. Because the world will eat you alive. The world does not care about any of us. The world is just here, and we're in it. But, alright. Till next time.